Let's be honest, AI is moving at a speed that's almost hard to keep up with. So today, we're going to cut through all that noise and give you a clear 360-degree look at what's actually going on, from the deep-down code all the way up to the real-world infrastructure that makes it all possible.
Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's just talk about scale for a second. If you want to grasp how deeply AI has already woven into our economy, just look at OpenAI. We're talking over 1 million customers. And these aren't just small startups. We're talking giants like PayPal, Cisco, and Moderna, all using these tools right now. This isn't some far-off prediction, folks. It's happening today.
All right, so with that massive scale in mind, here's our game plan. First, we're going to start right at the center, looking at how the core models are being toughened up for enterprise use. Then, we'll check out the booming new agent economy that's being built on top of that core. After that, we'll peek into the future with some cutting-edge research. And finally, we'll zoom way out to look at the real-world policies and infrastructure holding this whole thing together.
So first up, hardening that AI core. You know, when millions of businesses start depending on these models, making them secure, tough, and ready to scale isn't just a feature. It becomes the #1 priority.
And a huge piece of that security puzzle is fighting off things like prompt injection attacks. So what is that? Well, it's basically a clever way to trick a language model into going rogue, making it do stuff it was never supposed to. And if you're a company relying on AI for something important, well, letting that happen is just not an option. It's a deal breaker.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Look at how they're defending against this stuff. OpenAI isn't just sitting back and waiting for attacks to happen. They're in this constant proactive loop. They use their own AI-powered red teams to hunt for new weaknesses, then they use reinforcement learning to patch them up, and they're constantly beefing up their defenses. It's this never-ending cycle of discover, patch, and harden.
And you know, this push for a tougher core isn't just an OpenAI thing. We're seeing it all across the industry. You've got Hugging Face with its April Guard, which is kind of like a safety net for what the model says. And then there's Amazon Web Services, and they're rethinking how these models even think. We all know about chain of thought, right? Where the AI kind of talks itself through a problem. Well, they're developing something called chain of draft, where the model can work on different parts of an answer at the same time, making the whole process way more efficient.
So, with a more secure and robust core in place, what can you actually build on top of it? Well, that's what we're jumping into next. It's the foundation for this absolute explosion of AI agents that are designed to plug right into our everyday work. I mean, just look at this. It's the perfect snapshot of how fast things are moving. You've got agents for managing projects, open source tools that can literally control your mouse cursor using computer vision, apps to run super powerful AI on your phone, even specialized AI that helps track photos on construction sites. It's a real Cambrian explosion, but for practical AI tools. And of course, it's not just the startups getting in on the action. The big labs are building the platforms that this whole new agent economy runs on. A perfect example, xAI just launched its Grok Voice Agent API. That basically opens the floodgates for developers everywhere to build all kinds of cool, sophisticated voice-powered agents.
Okay, so we've seen the core technology and the tools being built right now. Let's shift gears a bit. Where is all this headed? Let's look at the cutting-edge research that's trying to solve the next big problems in AI.
So one of the next huge mountains to climb is what researchers call the spatial reasoning gap. Here's the deal. Today's models are great at telling you what's in a picture, but they're still pretty bad at understanding where things are in relation to each other. And closing that gap is absolutely essential if we want AI that can actually function in the real physical world. Think back to those construction site AIs or the cursor control tools. This is the kind of problem they need to solve.
Another huge frontier? Explainability. I mean, how can we really trust these systems if they're just a black box? Researchers are wrestling with what you could call a scalability versus stability problem. On one side, you have automated methods that can spit out an explanation really fast, but honestly, those explanations can be kind of flimsy. On the other side, you have these super labor-intensive methods where humans label everything, which gives you rock-solid explanations, but it takes forever and costs a fortune. So the real race is on to find that sweet spot in the middle.
And you know, the research isn't just about the tech itself. It's about us, how we work with it. This recent paper flags a really important risk. It turns out that as scientists use AI to help with coding, they start writing more code, which sounds great, but they spend way less time actually validating it. And that could lead to some pretty serious errors creeping into scientific work.
Okay, for our last section, let's pull the camera way, way back. Because for this whole AI revolution to actually happen, it needs a solid foundation in the real world. We're talking infrastructure, policy, the whole shebang. And here's maybe the most critical point of all. All this amazing digital progress we're seeing, it is completely dependent on real physical stuff. And you know what's at the top of that list? Energy. The insane amount of computation these models need requires a power grid that is stable and secure. Without it, the whole AI revolution just grinds to a halt.
So governments are starting to wake up to this. On the home front, in the US, you're seeing partnerships like NIST and MITRE launching new centers to figure out how to safely plug AI into critical industries. And on the world stage, this is turning into a fierce competition. The patent data shows a clear tech race between the US and China, which is then pushing places like Europe to figure out their own path forward.
So if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. There are two massive movements happening at the exact same time. Down in the weeds, you've got this intense focus on making the core AI technology better, stronger, and more secure. And then from a 30,000-foot view, you've got this mad dash to build all the stuff around it, the apps, the policies, and the physical infrastructure needed to make it all work.
And that leaves us with one big final question we all need to think about. The AI revolution is here. The tech is moving at lightning speed, there's no question about that. But is the foundation it's all built on? Our energy grids, our supply chains, our laws and regulations, is any of that really ready for the wave that's coming?